All right, let's just jump right in, shall we? Welcome to today's Explainer. Now, we're doing something a little different today. We're going on a sensory time travel journey back to a much, much simpler time. Seriously, for the next few minutes, just forget about your smartphone, ignore those calendar alerts, and tune out the notifications. Today, we're taking a true yadonka Safar, a real trip down memory lane right back to the absolute pure magic of an Indian childhood in the 90s. We are heading straight back to the golden days. I'm talking about those seemingly endless summer holidays, the sheer incredible relief of the first monsoon rains, and the simple, unmatched joy of making paper boats. We're going to relive one specific, perfectly nostalgia-filled day, from dawn to absolute dusk. And we're going to experience it exactly how we did back then. So, let's set the stage, shall we?
दादी सुबह हो गई क्या?
हाँ बिटिया, मुर्गा भी बोल उठा। उठो भैया, गर्मी का दिन है।
Man, do you remember that electric feeling? Waking up early during summer vacation, it wasn't a chore at all. It was fueled by pure, unadulterated excitement. You absolutely had to get up before the morning sun got too scorching hot, completely ready to rescue stuck kites from the trees and just sprint outside to play with your friends.
Which brings us to Chapter 1, Summer Mornings and Kites. Now, to actually survive the heat, we relied heavily on our ultimate 90s summer survival kit. It came down to 3 absolute essentials. First up, nimbu pani. But, always requested with that extra pinch of salt to bounce back after running around all morning. Then, cold water poured straight from the earth in matka. Because, honestly, nothing in the world quite matches that cooling, earthy taste, right? And to top it off, the baraf gola. Absolutely drenched in both red and green syrups. And let's be real, the ultimate goal wasn't just to eat it. It was to proudly show off who ended up with the absolute most colorful tongue. Right, so once you were all filled up, it was straight up to the roof. Wokata! If you know, you know. This was literally the ultimate kite-flying victory cry. The teamwork up on the roof was intense. You'd have one person holding the spool, the other carefully guiding the kite, practically begging the wind to just stay strong for a few more minutes. And the sheer thrill of cutting an opponent's kite, yelling, "Wokata!" at the absolute top of your lungs while their defeated kite drifted away, simply unmatched.
Moving into the afternoon heat, we hit Chapter 2, Gully Cricket.
So, normal cricket, as we know, has official umpires and very strict rules. But our beloved gully cricket? Oh, wow. The laws there were hilariously rigid, but they were dictated entirely by whoever actually owned the bat. Or, failing that, just the loudest kid on the street. You played by very specific rules like, I am the umpire, therefore my word is final. Or, the absolute classic, hit straight or you're not out. Because let's face it, hitting the ball into Sharmaji's house meant the game was abruptly, permanently over.
But despite the blazing heat and those endless shouting arguments over who was really out, those small street matches fueled some pretty grand, innocent dreams. एक दिन हम TV में मैच खेलेंगे और पूरा मोहल्ला देखेगा. One day, we will play a match on TV and the whole neighborhood will watch. Every single kid out there, clutching that heavy, chipped wooden bat, believed, even if just for a fleeting second, that they were destined to be the absolute next big superstar.
Then the skies would change for Chapter 3, Monsoon Rains in School.
There is a very, very specific, almost magical smell that signals this shift. The completely unbeatable fragrance of bhigi mitti, the wet earth. Just take a second and try to recall that exact scent right now. It is literally the smell of pure joy and absolute relief. But of course, as the rain started pouring down, reality quickly set in. You still had to grab your trusty umbrella and actually walk to school in the pouring rain.
And let me tell you, a typical rainy school day was a whole journey. Starting in the morning, you're out there navigating this treacherous maze of thick mud and deceptively deep puddles, your school shoes inevitably filling up with water. By the time you finally make it to the classroom, you're trying so hard to write carefully while the blue ink stubbornly spreads all over your wet notebook paper. But you know what? It all pays off at the lunch break. That pure, simple joy of opening those steel tiffin boxes and sharing warm aloo sabzi and spicy achar with your absolute best friends.
3. Now why just the number 3? Well, because that was the exact number of seconds we kids would count out loud between seeing the lightning flash in the sky and waiting to hear the thunder crash. 1, 2, 3. It was our very own, supposedly highly scientific way of figuring out exactly how far away the storm was.
Which brings us right to Chapter 4, After-School Joys and Paper Boats.
Because once you were out in the flooded streets, you weren't just a kid anymore, right? You were the undisputed captain of the Kagas ki Nav, your very own paper boat.
We would craft these little boats with absolute precision, usually tearing pages right out of our rough notebooks, and then race them in the muddy streams rushing down the side of the street. The kid whose boat somehow survived the longest and traveled the furthest without sinking, they were officially crowned the neighborhood captain for the day.
And of course, every great puddle jumping adventure ends exactly the same way. Maza bahut aaya maa. Lo garam doodh pee lo, sardi nahi lagegi. Had a lot of fun, mom. Here, drink hot milk, you won't catch a cold. It just perfectly captures that universal motherly care. The mandatory piping hot glass of milk, usually heavily dosed with sugar, served up the exact second you walk through the front door, shivering and completely soaked to the bone.
Drying off leads us to Chapter 5, Power Cuts and Family Nights.
Because, inevitably, the lights went out. And when they did, families just instinctively huddled together in the dark. This usually meant listening to Dadi's absolutely terrifying ghost stories about the Chudale or the tree witch that supposedly lived just down the road. It meant sitting around by flickering candlelight, eagerly anticipating your father finally coming home from work, and passing the time by relishing Nani's incredibly sweet summer mangoes. But oh, when the power did miraculously come back on, getting the television to actually work was a high-stakes, full family mission. Step 1. Send the youngest or most agile person straight up to the roof. Step 2. They rotate that heavy metal antenna just slightly. Step 3. Yell down to the living room, Abaz Barhao, Abayazaf, turn up the volume, it's clear now. It was a completely universal struggle, but honestly, a beautiful display of family teamwork just to get a fuzzy, static-filled picture on the screen. 2. Here's another important number on our journey today. This represents the simple, sweet innocence of taking a few coins to the local shop to buy exactly 2 orange candies just to save them for tomorrow. And if you happen to be short on change, no problem at all. You just earnestly promised the shopkeeper you'd pay the remaining balance the next day. Life back then was built so firmly on that kind of simple, unspoken neighborhood trust.
Finally, we arrive at Chapter 6, The Fragrance of Childhood.
As the day wrapped up, nightfall meant the simple, quiet act of looking up and spotting the Saptarshi, the Big Dipper, shining up in the night sky. Sleeping on the chut, finally feeling that cool night breeze roll in, listening to soft rambling stories from your grandparents, and just playfully claiming specific stars in the huge sky as your very own. It was, without a doubt, the perfect, calming end to a totally chaotic, joyful day.
And really, it all comes down to this beautiful thought. बचपन सच में जल्दी-जल्दी बीत जाता है, हाँ, पर इसकी खुशबू रह जाती है. Childhood truly passes by so quickly, yes, but its fragrance remains. Think about it. These fleeting, incredibly simple moments, the soggy paper boats, the fast-melting ice golas, the evening power cuts, they leave a permanent, beautiful mark on our lives. We outgrow the clothes, for sure. We move away from the old neighborhood, but we never, ever outgrow the memories.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really think about. Look back for a second. What is the one childhood memory whose fragrance still lingers with you today? Just take a quiet moment to sit with that memory, let it bring a genuine smile to your face, and keep that sweet nostalgia alive.